The special meeting of the Ventura County Consolidated Oversight Board, and I am calling the meeting to order. If we can have a roll call, board members.
Board Member Brooke? Present. Board Member Brooke?
Present. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Board Member Mishler?
Here, present.
Board Member Powers?
Here.
Board Member Simons?
Here.
Board Member Dean?
Here.
Chair Al-Fattal?
Here. Thank you. And next, if we're ready to move to the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll go ahead and start it off. Ready, begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, shall make government, and justice for all.
Thank you. And next agenda item is the minutes of the November 18th Oversight Board meeting. If there is any discussion or comments or motion for approval.
I move to adopt.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? Mishler?
Mike makes the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Dean seconds. Any discussion? A roll call vote then?
Board Member Brooke?
Yes.
Board Member Dean?
Yes.
Board Member Mishler?
Yes.
Board Member Powers?
Yes.
Board Member Simons?
Yes.
Chair Al-Fattal?
Yes. Thank you. Carries unanimously. Next item is the agenda review for the board to consider and approve by majority vote. Are there any revisions to the agenda? No revisions to the agenda? Roll call? No. Any comments from board members? Okay, let's go to the next item then. Board comments. Any board comments today? Mr. Mishler.
Yeah. Yes, I just want to make a note to the board members that I've asked our staff to compile a list of all the outstanding bonds from the various successor agencies so that we can have a complete list. Various special districts have been interested in that and see the impact over the upcoming years.
Mr. Mishler, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we're catching most of what you're saying, but it's a little difficult to hear your words.
Yes, let me try again. I have asked staff to compile a list of all the successor outstanding bonds and to compile that list so we can have it for reference, and for the various special districts have requested that information so they can do planning for the next several years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from other board members? Okay, seeing none, let's move on then to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Mr. Bravo does have a few public comments.
Just a couple comments. Just want to remind the board that in a couple of weeks, we'll have another meeting on the 27th, so keep your calendars available for that. The other thing is I just wanted to congratulate board members Mishler and Simons. They were reappointed to their posts, and so we'll continue having them on the board. And then the last thing was that at the last meeting, there was some discussion about a letter to the Department of Finance. I'm working on that, and I'll have that available for next meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will get to our regular agenda, the sole item to conditionally approve the proposed successor agencies' administrative cost budgets for the cities of Fillmore and Port Hueneme for July 1, 21 through June 30, 22. And we have presentations. This is a follow-up from our last meeting. Fillmore, I think, is first on the list to present.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, who's speaking?
Oh, yes. This is Melly Diano from the city of Fillmore. And I don't know whether you have a copy of the proposed administrative budget.
We do. We'll look forward to you presenting or walking us through that.
Okay. Hold on, please. Trying to. Okay. We have reduced our. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. We have reduced our administrative budget for 21-22. It was 250,000 in 2021, and in 21-22. We have reduced it to $232,500. Staffing was reduced from 129,627 to 124, wherein the calculation of how we arrive at that is below, as presented below, wherein the hours of the staff was cut down so that we could arrive at the suggested admin cost of $232,000. We project also that in the next few months, because the management is trying to, is working on disposing of 2 properties within the redevelopment area. So we included legal expenses, which we anticipate we will incur in connection with the disposition of the properties. So as you could see, we have, but then okay, in the the indirect cost also was reduced, and so everything that we have is presented in there, and it's because as I mentioned, in the next few months, we will be working on disposing all the properties, hopefully, that is within the redevelopment area.
So for my clarification, you decreased labor costs and increased legal costs, but you ended
Well,
up with a net decrease?
We decreased the staffing cost. As you could see, it was in the 220,000 in the past years, and so now we reduced the staff cost so that we could accommodate the legal expenses that we're anticipating in connection with the disposition of properties held by the redevelopment district.
Okay, thank you. That was, did you have any additional comments for your presentation before I open it up to the floor to the board for questions or comments?
No, I think that's what.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Thank you. I'll open it up to the board. Ken Simons.
Yeah, I noticed on the legal regarding the AB 1486, when I was on city council, we had to have a special meeting with our city attorney just to discuss what the effect AB 1486 had upon the properties that were being disposed. So, it's an interesting question. I know I'm not crazy about having fees in there, but honestly, it's a whole new venue. There's a 6-month-old. Is everybody familiar with AB 1486 and
No,
how it affects the redevelopment agency disposition of properties?
no.
Okay, maybe we can have our council explain it to us. But in essence, there are certain qualified properties before they get put on the market. They have to be presented to a low-income developer or a low-income developer for housing. This is a tremendous requirement for housing now. So they passed a law that went into effect January of last year that says that you have to now offer it. It could be on your commercial zone downtown, and it's zoned for commercial, but you have to now go ahead and offer it for a housing project to a low-income developer to help with the housing crisis. There's also in January of last year, there was the housing crisis bill, the emergency housing bill, that had other requirements and changes in legislation for cities to minimize regulation for development of housing. So they have a $20,000 number in here for dealing with the disposition of the property, plus the AB 1486. But I think it's important because when they pass this legislation, in my opinion, just one person's opinion, it kind of puts you on hold on where you're going to do with these properties for at least 6 months. If you go through the process and you don't get a developer, then I think the 6 months. Is our council here online?
I believe so. Is that?
Yes, I am. Brett McMurdo. I'm sitting in today for Jacqueline Smith. I apologize. She's in a court hearing this morning.
No, are you familiar with AB 1486?
Just kind of peripherally to the extent that you've explained it. I mean, I would agree that there certainly may be legal costs incurred as a result of moving this forward. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge, Ken.
Okay, there's also going to be a delay. For instance, as a consolidated oversight board, one of my hats that I'm thinking of is what's highest and best value of these disposed properties, and to get the most money for the agencies that are supposed to be benefiting from the disbursement of these funds. And this changes the value, and it also changes the timeline. So, Mr. Bravo, maybe you can provide us some education by the next meeting or some paperwork to make sure the board's on the same page, because all the agencies in the state of California have to deal with this, including all the agencies that are in the purview of the Ventura County. That was my only comment. Thank you for your time, folks.
We've done some of the research already, and we'll provide that summary at the next meeting.
Thank you. And Ken, you were just bringing this up as a point of information, not necessarily making a comment about is $20,000 enough or not enough for this particular item?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure it's extravagant is what I'm just getting at.
Yeah.
So I don't have an issue with it. I'm not crazy about the 232,500 overall. I'd like to see that lower, but you know, the $20,000 for legal fees, they took it out of one area and put it in another area. I can see the justification for it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments from board members? Mr. Mishler.
Yes, just to follow up, yeah, I have no problem with the $20,000 expected cost for legal fees. But I do have a question. The first question is about the item that's considered is under miscellaneous per cost allocation plan. You have the city has $72,776 in that. Can you explain what that is exactly?
Okay. Let me take a look. Okay. Hold on. Okay.
And the reason I'm bringing that up as you're looking at it is, for example, the city of Camarillo total allocation is $65,000. This one item is more than the entire city of Camarillo. So I'm trying to understand why this number is so large compared to other cities in our county.
Hold on, please.
You're referring, Mike, to the 72,776 number, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, correct.
Thanks.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, I'm looking at. Hold on, please. Those are the indirect costs that are incurred and not like property-related costs, I guess, in maintaining the properties. Yeah, it says in here property-related costs pertaining to the properties, contract services that are also incurred, and general fund administrative expenses that are indirectly allocated to the different funds.
So, Speaker from Fillmore, he's asking specifically not about all the indirect costs, but about the one that is listed as miscellaneous other for $72,776. He's specifically asking about that particular item and what does that item represent? What do those costs represent for that item?
That's what I was, and that's what, excuse me, that's what I'm trying to explain. Those are indirect costs incurred by general fund and charged to the successor agencies, and also the property-related costs that are incurred in maintaining those properties and the contracts that are, like landscaping, maintaining those properties that are directly charged to the redevelopment properties.
Well, let me just follow up on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. If that's true, how 4 years ago it was roughly $38,000. So this has gone up almost, not quite, but the costs have really gone up over the last 4 years. Why would the cost be going up almost twice as much over 4 years if it's the same item there, just to maintain a property?
I have to get back with you on that one because, in 1920, it went up from almost 50,000 to 73, and then 79. So,
I mean, I mean, the reason I'm asking these questions, I'm trying to get a handle. I mean, if it's costing the city, successor agency, more money to maintain these properties than you're going to get in value, I mean, it doesn't make any sense for the taxpayer to be paying out. You know, if I go back 3 or 4 years, for cost of maintaining these properties over 3 or 4 years, according to your info, I'm not sure what these properties are actually worth today on the market, but hypothetically, you can be paying more than they're worth. I mean, this is a.
Well, that's why the city is trying to dispose. We're working on disposing of the properties. Sorry, I'm screwing my voice. And I think I don't know, I can't remember when I am a new interim finance director. I'm just filling in. So I think what happened also the last meeting, when was that? Sometime is October. The former finance director presented to the board that I think they're working on 2 properties that they are trying to dispose of, so that at least, because they're also trying to reduce the cost and then turn it over, so that then we could. And they're also working on, I think there were 2 properties that are in the process of being developed by developers. And I think that's why the cost has gone up a little bit because of that, clearing the properties, so that then in the process of disposing it. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have it here in front of me. Do you know what those 2 properties you're working on?
Hold on, let me try to check. Let me look. I saw that.
According to the spreadsheet we have here, Fillmore has 3 properties still left to dispose.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Hold on, please. I'm trying to remember. Housing. Okay. Affordable housing.
Mike, you said 3 properties, but I think the speaker said 2 properties, right?
Yes, the speaker was, yes, as she's looking up information, on the spreadsheet that was provided to us in the back of our packet that has a list of all the
properties.
Fillmore still has, according to this spreadsheet, still has 3 properties listed. However, she's referring to 2 of the 3 is what I'm assuming.
Well, that's because when I was going over the records from trying to review what's happening, that's what I remember seeing. It was Frank Catania who made a presentation at the last meeting, wherein he was trying to present to the board the properties that are in the past that they are trying to dispose of. And
But let me interrupt. So, Mike, I don't, whether it's 2 properties or whether it's 3 properties, I think your point is, why is the cost there, regardless of the number of properties, and why is it increasing? And the speaker has described, her knowledge and understanding of the situation. But I don't know whether you want to stay on this or ask any follow-up questions, or I can open it up to the other board members to see if they have any comments. What's your pleasure, Mike?
I'll just make a comment that I'm concerned how if you have the same number of properties or even reduced number of properties, yet the cost to maintain those properties is going up pretty sharply here over the last few years. And it's just something that's hard for me to understand how that would happen. But you can go on to other individuals. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Ken?
Yeah, what I heard from the lady was that there's two items in there. There's the allocations and there's a direct cost for the properties. Honestly, I'd like to see more detail on that item before we approve it, and hopefully they'll get to us before next meeting. But that would be my recommendation because I don't know how they did the allocation on that category in the previous years, and that might be part of it. But you know, if there's detail on the properties and what the costs are, I mean, when I see those costs, I can tell you if those are reasonable or normal because I'm in that end of the business. But I don't know about the allocation on the other items that were put in this category. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're asking for a further breakdown of the miscellaneous other category costs, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Bravo, how does, he mentioned about approving or not approving, that was one voice, but how does that relate to moving this item forward today? And then also, is that all coming back, do they need to be conditionally approved today based on this issue, or what can we do by the next meeting on the 27th?
So, yeah, we could, you could conditionally approve them. They're all going to come back anyways in the meetings in 2 weeks. So that would be your final approval anyways.
Okay. Okay. So any other comments from
Chief,
board?
can I clarify? So the ROPS are due in 2 weeks,
Correct.
and that's the final approval of next year. So
Right.
that's the only time they could come back with their ROPS with an updated budget or some determination of detail, and it's up to this board to approve the ROPS, which would include the administrative budget. And if we don't, I mean, it seems to me pretty, I mean, it's the whole ROPS approval is pending this administrative budget. And so next board meeting needs to be the opportunity for them to make any changes or clarifications. And if we still don't like it, they're in some concern over, there's some danger of not getting ROPS approved.
Correct, because they need to then submit it to the Department of Finance on the 1st of February. And if they don't, I think they're fined like $10,000 a day or something like that. So it's some large number.
By the way, could the Zoom members hear Mr. Bravo?
Barely.
Okay. Okay. Robert, you want to repeat that a little bit? I think you're a little muffled.
Oh, sorry.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah. No, so, anyways, you know, they have to, the board has to approve it at the next meeting, and then they have to submit it to the Department of Finance by February 1st. And if they don't, then they could be fined like $10,000 a day. So yeah, it really needs to get, I mean, for their purposes, definitely needs to get approved in the next meeting.
So before I comment, any other board member questions or comments? Danielle?
Yeah, I have a follow-up.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Danielle, let me have Ken do his follow-up, and then we'll go to you, sorry. Go ahead, Ken.
So if they come to us for a $232,000 approval, but we only want to approve $200,000, we have the right to do so, correct?
I didn't get that question.
He's saying if they come back
Hello?
to the ROPS and they don't make an adjustment, and they leave it at 232, can we say we'll only authorize 220,000? That was the example he used, I believe.
Well, you know, that's the tricky part, because, you know, it gets approved, you know, we certify the resolutions and all that stuff. So there's truly a timing thing, and if they need to adjust their ROPS, it's very difficult at that point to really do anything.
That's a good point.
And that's why we've been doing these things, you know, with advanced time, because in the past it seemed like, you know, it was kind of an all or nothing thing where, you know, you either approve it and then that's it, and you didn't really have a lot of leeway as to making those adjustments. And so I would say that, yeah, what they present has to be more or less approved.
Yeah.
Ms. Brooke, comment.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had two questions or two comments, and one of them was the same as Mike's on the miscellaneous. Miscellaneous of the $72,776 is 31% of the total admin budget of 232.5. That's 31% for indirect costs seems really high. For example, in schools in the federal government, they max out at 3% is only what we can charge for indirect. So 31% of the overall budget is excessively high. And I think they could go back and look at that number and look at something more reasonable. As far as contract services has $10,000. In the past 3 years, it has been nothing. And then it wasn't, and then there was a note that says not budgeted in 2021, and then there's no explanation. I think that can be looked at and potentially removed. They don't know what it is, and it hasn't been there for years. I think that's a place they can look at. So looking at that 72,000 and that 10, I think they can come back and do better.
Any other questions or comments? I think what I'm hearing, one voice for the city of Fillmore is to break out this miscellaneous category so that we can see it, and also prior to coming back for requesting approval for the ROPS, see what you can do to fine tune this and reduce these budgets as appropriate and where appropriate further. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yes, please. As I mentioned that I just came on board about a month ago, but then what I have seen, I was going over the previous notes. I think in the past there was not much activity in the redevelopment properties, but then in the past 2 years they have what do you call this? They have pushed for the disposing all these properties, so that then the successor, when it goes back to the what do you call this, when it's there, I can't remember the right word, that they are trying to work hard the past 2 years to get rid or dispose of or sell the properties to developers. In fact, I think I saw they had a property that they are converting now. It's right in the middle of the commercial district in the city, where it is going to be that they're going to build low-income housing, several units of properties, of apartments right there. And then there's also another area or another property that they're also trying to convert and sell to a developer. That's the reason why I think that the cost has gone up in the past 2 years compared to the previous years, wherein it's about stagnant. So but this past 2 years they really have been working on it. So that's what I just saw, or
thank you.
Notice by going to it. But I will go back and try to figure out, try to review in detail about this indirect cost and miscellaneous, and come back to you on the next meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Simons.
Yeah, just in response to that, just so you know, ma'am, we have 1, 2, 3 other cities that have 3 or more dispositions going on that are being held right now that are in the process of dispositions. And all of those cities have budgets that are less than yours.
Yeah, and
That's why we're trying to figure out what is reasonable.
Okay, I will, as I mentioned, I will go back and try to, review the transactions that have in the past several years, so that then when in the next meeting I would be able to inform you or explain to you more what I have seen.
well, and we appreciate that. We know you haven't been there long. I think you said a month, so you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, but that's what we're asking for. And if you can go do some research more and give us some more detail when this comes forward, we'll continue the conversation at the next meeting.
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you.
If I could just
Mr.
clarify
Powers.
one thing for for City of Fillmore, next meeting is the only opportunity for us to approve your ROPS as well. So there's a lot of weight on how you address these questions today in your response. And so if this board, as you're hearing, has still some reservations about it, about the numbers you're providing at that time, your ROPS is in some risk of not being approved, which is rather dire at this situation, I would say.
Thank you. So for this particular item, they're both together, Fillmore, which we've heard that presentation and had this discussion, and then also Port Hueneme. I'll ask Mr. Bravo, shall we go on to the next one and take them together, or can we separate them if the board chooses to make any further comments on Fillmore and conditionally approve or not, et cetera?
Yes, if you'd like to separate them, that'd probably be easier.
Why don't we separate them then with Fillmore? So the item that's up that we just heard and discussed is to conditionally approve that. Is there a motion, Mr. Mishler?
Question, Kristen.
Yes, sir. Question.
Today, not approved, but.
We can't hear you, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have to conditionally approve this today or not?
Do we have to conditionally approve it today? No, we do not.
Obviously, the main approval is in 2 weeks. That's the one that really carries any weight.
I'm sorry, was there a motion or no?
I'll make the motion to review these, to vote on conditionally approving this City of Fillmore budget, and I'll just preface it with I'm not in favor of it at this point, and with the messages we've provided with the City of Fillmore in today's meeting, and I hope they will respond appropriately into our inquiries.
So you're asking for conditionally approving or for tabling? What?
To vote on.
Okay, to vote on it today.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second to vote on conditional approval for today? Seeing none, I think this will come back to our next meeting for a vote. So thank you, Fillmore. I apologize. I can't see your name on the screen. Otherwise, I would use your name. But thank you for your presentation. And we'll see you on the 27th, or we'll at least hear from you on the 27th. And you've heard the comments from the board. Thank you for your time today. Next, then, is we'll have a presentation from Port Hueneme on this matter of conditional approval.
Good morning, Chair and board members. I'm Dominique Clark. I'm a consultant to the Port Hueneme Successor Agency. And I believe you have in front of you our revised administrative budget for fiscal year 2021 to 22. We have reduced the budget to $225,000, and we took the $25,000 reduction completely from the staffing line item. And you should see before you the breakdown, the new breakdown of the costs, as well as the new breakdown of the staffing budget. And then we also attached 3 attachments. So I just want to go over those quickly. The first attachment is the approved admin budgets from last ROPS cycle for Kern County. And I only provided that to provide some context because I know at the last meeting, it was said repeatedly that Port Hueneme's admin budget compared to the other successor agencies in the county seemed high. And there was discussion, a few successor agencies just mentioned that $250,000 is just the standard admin budget. So I just wanted to provide what successor agencies are being approved for in Kern County as a point of comparison. And as you'll see there, most of them are getting $250,000 budgets, even those that have really small amounts of enforceable obligations. So I just provide that as an informational piece. And then attachment 2 is a DOF letter that shows the application of Health and Safety Code Section 34171B3. And in that letter, I highlighted, this is basically a letter for a successor agency that requested an admin budget that had to be reduced by the Department of Finance because there is a mechanism in the law where if their admin budget is higher than 50% of the RPTTF from the prior fiscal year period, DOF will reduce it. And that's their standard for what's considered an excessive admin budget. So I just provided that to show you that DOF does step in when they believe that the admin allowance is too high. And that just gives an example of that. And then the final attachment, attachment 3, because I know we talked last time about the back and forth that is required with both the county auditor and then DOF. And I know there were questions about the extent of that. And so I just wanted to provide an email chain from last year that shows that back and forth. And you can see that it goes over the span of several months. And just every time that we get a question from the county auditor, that requires back and forth with city staff, with the accountants and so forth. And then after we finally complete our county auditor review, then we go through the same process with DOF, and there are additional documentations in addition to the ROPS form that we have to provide to them. So I just provided that. Some of you may already be aware of that back and forth that has to happen during those reviews, but for those of you who aren't, I just wanted to give you a snapshot of the work that goes into those reviews. And thank you for your attention to the presentation. I do want to point out that this is Port Huenemes's next to last ROPS. Their final ROPS will be next year's ROPS because then their bonds will be paid off. So we're very close to the end here. And then I also just wanted to make a request based on the conversation that was had earlier during Fillmore's presentation. If it's possible that we could get a decision today about the admin budget, that would be ideal, because although we have until February 1st to submit the ROPS to DOF, we also, in Port Hueneme, we like to have the successor agency board approve the ROPS as well, because they're also interested in what we're requesting. And that meeting with the successor agency board is next Tuesday, and the agenda deadline is today. So we were hoping we would get a decision today from this board about the admin budget so we can send those documents to our successor agency board and have that approved. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. I'll open it up to the board for questions or comments.
I have a question. Ms. Clark, you mentioned this is in the final throes of in your extinguishing the properties. Just generally, can you give us an example of what this budget will look like after that is accomplished? Generally,
After the properties are disposed, is that your question?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that well.
Is your question how the admin budget will change after the properties are disposed?
Thank you. Yes.
I don't anticipate it changing. We don't include anything for property disposition in this budget. They only have one property left, and my understanding is they closed on it before the end of 2020, right before the end of the year. So there isn't any budgeting for property disposition.
So all of this is administration related to the financing.
Exactly.
And how is the city manager involved with that after the properties are disposed?
We keep the city manager informed of what we're requesting on the ROPS and also of our accounting. And as I mentioned, everything has to be taken to the successor agency board. And so the city manager is involved in that process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing Ken Simons. Ken.
Yeah, so you said the city manager would present to the successor agency board. how many meetings of the Successor Agency Board do you expect a presentation to be made this coming proposed 21-22 budget year?
I'm a consultant. I'm not the best person to ask that question. I know we have to go before them with the ROPS, and I know they do have other items going on, but I don't know the exact answer to that question.
Yeah, because it's, I'm guessing one, maybe two meetings. And you're not going to certainly have, so 100, I know the city manager has to review all the documentation, but you've got 208 hours for the city manager, 208 hours for the city clerk. The city clerk, I don't know what her position is in respect to, other than the successor agency reporting. I don't know what she has to do with the day-to-day functions of ROPS. Can you explain that to me?
I'm not sure which document you're looking at, but the one that I'm looking at says 104 hours for the city manager and 104 for the city clerk. But again,
I was looking at the last new budget. Yeah, okay. Even 104 hours.
Sure.
So, I mean, what's the city clerk going to be doing for 104 hours for next year on redevelopment agency?
No, that's a fair question. All I can say is I worked with staff to develop this budget, and these are the hours that they provided. I don't know the day-to-day details of what each person does.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Brooke.
I have a question on the finance debt administration. Here you have cost allocation. So it makes me believe, just like Fillmore had a cost allocation plan, that this is the same place, just instead of under miscellaneous, it's under finance and debt administration. I don't know what ISF means, and unfunded liability contribution. Can you explain how this is $60,000 for these three items and their breakdown, and give me how it pertains to the properties?
Sure. So I actually asked staff that same question, what was included in this line item, and I can read that list for you. I will say again, this has nothing to do with the property disposition. It's more just managing the successor agency. But the list is office space, IT/computer, board meetings, workers' comp, property insurance, and CalPERS.
So that is workers' comp, and CalPERS is typically labor-related costs. So that would typically be under staffing. Mm-hmm. And I did notice some of your, and I only compared it to Fillmore, some of your rates, they were higher than Fillmore. Not to say that Port Hueneme doesn't pay more or less or whatever, but typically those are personnel-related costs. And office space, you're going to have that office space whether the RDA is there or not. And IT, computers exist. I don't understand why that's there. And what was the board? I just put BD.
Board meetings.
Board meetings. Not really sure what that means. I think when you look at 60,000 divided by 225,000, that's again 26% of your budget. That's 1/4 of the budget is under office space, IT, board meetings, workers' comp, and CalPERS. I think you guys should need to go back and look at that line item, 60,000, as a potential area to possibly eliminate, to bring down your 225 to something more reasonable as an administrative overhead. That would be my comment.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mishler.
Yes, thank you. I just want to follow up. I agree with the previous statement. Basically, we're talking about this budget will start 6 months from now. And by that, they've already, obviously the properties are gone. All they're doing is servicing the debt and wrapping up paperwork. And I don't understand how it costs this much money to do that. So I'm just seconding the previous comment that I also have a problem with that $60,000 and $30,000 there items. I just want to comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Would anybody like to make a motion? I see no motion coming.
That they have to come back.
Yeah. So, okay, Ms. Clark, you've heard the comments from the board. Thank you for your presentation, and we'll just ask for you to look at those items and come back on the 27th, maybe with a change or with more detail, and that's where we're at.
I make a request of the board.
Sure.
I think it would be helpful because we don't want to be in a situation, so we're already not going to be able to bring our ROPS to the successor agency before it goes to DOF, which is problematic. And now we are faced with an issue where we might be bringing back the ROPS and the board may still not approve the admin budget. So it would be helpful if you could tell us the amount that you'd like to see so we can try to work with that, because I mean, we've had this meeting and neither of the budgets have been approved, and I'm still not clear on what is considered an appropriate amount to this board. And so I'm worried that we're going to come back again in 2 weeks, and then we're not going to be able to get our ROPS approved, which is going to be very problematic because there is a $10,000 a day fine.
I don't think this is, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't think the board is looking for any magic number. I think there's numbers here that we have questions about and think there might be some opportunity there, just looking at numbers. And if you can make a compelling argument of why those numbers are good numbers and they can't be reduced, then, you know, we're happy to listen to that. And so those are my comments, but I don't know if any other board members would like to add to that.
Yeah, I would.
Sure, Ken.
Yeah, the Department of Finance has requested us to be diligent in our findings. So it's, again, there's not a number that we're looking for. It's the process and understanding the numbers, and I think we've been pretty fair across the board, and we'll be fair with you as well. But we'll get a number. I don't feel we're not going to get a number approved. It's just having the details. We need to make those decisions. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Ken. Any other comments? Mr. Dean.
Historical experience budgets. Get it nailed down before you present it. I would like to see.
Can you hear him? I think
I cannot hear him.
You need a speaker.
Simplicity in your presentation.
Do you have a speaker, Dale? I'm sorry. Do you have a microphone? Sorry, somewhere.
Is it on? Oh, it's right there. It's down. Yeah, you hit the button to hit the green light on. Great.
I know each of our cities are different, but with a presentation like this, it needs to be simply understood. And even the very complex budgets that I remember doing in business make it much easier than what you guys are trying to present. It's confusing, and I think that's a downside for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? So, yes, Mr. Mishler.
Yes, I'm just going to add that, you know, what we're doing, again, this, like has been mentioned, trying to oversee this and understand what's going on and be fair to all the different agencies and cities.
Speak into the mic more, Mike. Sorry.
Is this better now?
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, I think we're, again, just commenting again, has already been stated, that we're trying to be fair to all the agencies and cities here. And what we're looking at is how does how does one city stack up against another city? And if they're doing the same task, but one city is costing, twice as much as another city, there has to be something going on there, and you need to either justify it or reduce your cost down to be in line with other cities that are doing the same thing. And you're moving, as you mentioned, you're moving into a period of transition where you're just servicing debt volunteer and stuff. I mean, it shouldn't cost that much, but either you have to do more detail on explaining the cost or try to reduce the numbers. Thank you very much.
So thank you. Staff has reminded me that we will need a motion on this matter, at least a motion to take whatever action or non-action we need. So if I may ask again, may I have a motion? Did I hear one? Sorry.
Was there a motion? I didn't hear it.
I didn't either. I'm sorry. Maybe I missed it. No, I'm still looking for a motion. As we did with Fillmore.
Well, I move that we.
So I'll just take a roll call. And
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote then.
I'm sorry, what's the motion?
What's the motion?
Well, there's no motion. Nobody gave a motion, but this item is to conditionally approve this particular cost budget for Port Hueneme. So there was no motion on that. We made a motion for Fillmore and it died for lack of a second. So I was asking for a motion. It hasn't come, so we can just move to a roll call vote for administrative purposes. So we'll go to roll call.
Doesn't it just die for lack of a motion? I don't understand.
So, I'm sorry? So staff has informed me that we will go through this process. It will die for lack of a motion after the roll call. Assuming you don't vote affirmatively.
Board Member Brooke?
No.
Board Member Dean?
Back door open.
Board Member Mishler?
No.
Board Member Powers?
No?
Board Member Simons?
No.
Chair El Fattal?
No. Okay, so thank you for that. We've reached the end of this meeting, and it's time to say thank you all for coming and participating. I'm sorry, Mr. Bravo has a
Yeah. Just one quick comment for when they do come back in a couple of weeks. So with the exception of Port Hueneme and Fillmore, we conditionally approve the admin budgets of the other ones. Those theoretically should go through okay with respect to the admin budgets. And then if there's any debate, it would just be on those two. What I'm trying to say is that I don't think it would be appropriate to open it up to all of the other successor agencies.
That's my assumption.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure.
Yes.
Can I say one thing, if I may?
Mr. Powers.
To the cities of Fillmore and Port Hueneme, this is a tough situation. I recognize that you folks are in, and it's been ongoing, and I hear some of the frustration. I just want to help try to say something that will guide you to a positive outcome. And what I heard was significant, specific concerns about the cost allocation plan and the overhead allocation of costs and how that relates to the total cost. And I fully agree with Board Member Brooke on her comments. And so if you take a sharp pencil and look at those opportunities, I think our board would be much more in line with moving forward. And I just want to state that I think you heard enough today for specifics to come back with something. That's what I'm trying to say.
Can I say something, please?
In 1 minute, Board Member Dean has a comment first, and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Summary is very helpful. That's what we need to focus on.
Thank you. Okay, Fillmore, go ahead.
Yes, please. Thank you for all your comments. When I was reviewing the admin budget, I tried to reduce it. As you see, I have reduced the staff and all of that. But I will go back and review the allocation plan. As I mentioned, I was not familiar with it. But when I come back, I will let you know what's happening. And if there is something that I see that needs to be corrected, I promise you I will do that.
Thank you for your comments. And Mr. Mishler, we'll just leave this for the board right now. Did you have a comment or did I? Okay, no comment. With that, thank you everybody for participating. Mr. Bravo, I'm sorry, you're going to?
Yeah, just one
add
other comment is that unlike these that came as one package, we will deal with each of the successor agencies separately, and you will vote separately on each of them.
Fine, thank you for that. Other than that, thank you everybody for participating. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.